Mitch.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Sam's Army, episode 2.256. And we got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to start out with headlines where we'll talk offside changes, multi-club restrictions, and La Liga in the U.S. Weekly What If, MLS versus Premier League. We'll get back into that topic. Round the world, a roller coaster week for the U.S. men's national team that we will dig into. Plus, of course, MLS hit it and quit it minute. Premier League, got time to get your mind right for a big weekend ahead featuring a massive game. City hosting Arsenal at or near the top of the Premier League at this point. And stoppage time with Ivan Toney's best bets, where we are cooking with thermonuclear gas again, boys and girls. That's right. Get excited. And of course, everyone's favorite segment, GOAWs. Now it's time to welcome in this week's distinguished panel of beauties, starting with a couple familiar names before we get to this week's extra special and especially distinguished guest. First, we'll start out with Tyler Terrence. So this we're going to build off last week's introductory question, Tyler, where I asked you for your best game call. This one, I'm going to focus in, drill down a little bit. Give us what stands out as your favorite specific play or goal call.
I think it would have to be Rodrigo Lopez's game-winning penalty for Sacramento Republic over Sporting Kansas City in the 2022 Open Cup semifinal. That was
wow.
That
guy just went into his bag right away. I mean, that was there was like no hesitation.
He knows. He's got a list of these things. I promise you.
Second division team getting all the way to the Open Cup final. I mean, like, it was by far the coolest moment of my career. I feel like I also nailed the call on that goal and just sort of the moment in general. And I got some good feedback from people. So like that by far was like the coolest moment. The best goal that I've ever called, I think, was probably that Jason Johnson Phoenix Rising scissor kick that went viral back in like 2018. Amadou Dia, formerly of Sporting Kansas City, just like chipped that ball in and Johnson just unloaded. Like, I've never seen somebody connect so sweetly. Like, it was better connection than Rooney's bicycle kick against Manchester City. It was just fucking like, it was so pure. But anyway, yeah, those are my two moments.
Okay, good. I knew you'd have some near the top of your head and heart there. Next up, Mr. Mitchell Goulet, aka Overtime Mitch. And as the resident single person of this podcast, it's time to let us live vicariously, if momentarily, through you. So give us an update from the Bumble world. What's the best or worst date you've been on recently?
The only reason Sam is asking me this question is because of our conversations with Sam's Army After Dark, which you guys should pay a monthly subscription to be a part of. Seriously. Let's see, what's the best way I can put this? It lasted till about 4:30 in the morning, and she had work at 11 the next day. And she wasn't worried about it, so then I guess I wasn't worried about it either. It was interesting. Mikey knows her, actually. And I will not be seeing her again.
How well does Mikey know her?
I don't actually know the extent to which Mikey knows her, but I know he knows of her, and they've shook hands before. So Mikey and I haven't talked about it, but we'll compare notes at a later date.
Yeah, maybe next episode.
Did you get the old hit it and quit a minute in there, or what?
I lasted a full 45 seconds. I didn't even make it the minute.
Attaboy. That's what we're talking about. There we go. We'll get right into the deep stuff there. Finally, this week's extra special and specially distinguished guest, who really needs no introduction for anybody who is, just aware of what's going on in golf. Welcome, Dan Rappaport, first time. You are, you're a well-known media personality in the golf world. As I said, your Foreplay Pod is killing it in the podcast game. It's got to be one of the most popular. It's definitely the most relatable golf podcast out there. But we're actually not here to talk about golf.
No, golf is for losers.
To talk about side. You said it, your words, not mine. Listen, I've been following you on Twitter for a while now, and it's become apparent that you are like a legitimate soccer guy. So when we have people like you first time on the pod, it's time to give us your soccer origin story.
Oh man, this is actually, I don't know. I've never really shared this publicly on the internet before, but my dad had a role in starting MLS way back in the day. So yeah, my dad was very much involved with the starting of the LA Galaxy. So I don't really have memories of going to preschool. I have memories of like losing MLS Cups to Dallas or to DC United in the pouring rain. It's one of my very, very first memories. So yeah, when I was in preschool, I went to all the games, and I played growing up. I started getting into European soccer when I started playing kind of travel club soccer. I was the captain of my high school team, center defensive midfielder who liked to kind of park myself in the middle of the field and not really run very much, but kind of pull the strings and maybe score a set piece or two here or there and rack up the yellow cards. I was a bit of an enforcer, but yeah, I love soccer. It's my first love. It's what I really grew up wanting to play. I actually quit playing club soccer to start playing competitive golf. So it was kind of like a symbolic shift to where golf kind of took #1 spot in my life. But I've never given up loving soccer. And I think the last 4 or 5 years, I've just gotten so deep into it. It's become way easier to be a fan, obviously, with, people like yourself covering it, and with the MLS improving a lot in quality, and also just, I think NBC does a really, really good job with the Premier League stuff. So, and I think it's just easier to be a fan of leagues that aren't in America with social media has just made it so much easier. I might not be able to watch every single game, but I follow the right accounts, and you have a general idea. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is, in this sort of introduction, is like I'm just sort of obsessed with England, the entire country. Golf, I've been there a number of times. Love Island is like my favorite television show, so I feel like I'm an expert on like the regional dialects, and I'm a big Manchester United fan, so I'm just kind of obsessed with English culture. So it's yeah, there's sort of my soccer origin story. It goes very deep. There was kind of a time where we were a little estranged when I was really, really focusing on golf, but now that I'm back in California and can kind of afford my own subscription services, we're back big time into soccer.
Well, one thing that will stand out to everybody who's listening, because we've been talking about it for weeks, if not months at this point, everybody has been begging me, everybody being all of the Manchester United fans have been begging me to have a Manchester United fan proper on the show.
I'm here.
I didn't even realize that. It's just, yeah, it's fate. Okay.
What are your thoughts on Bruno? What are your thoughts on Bruno Fernandes?
We're getting into this right away.
The guy.
I think Bruno is like he's like Draymond, right? Like if I was not a fan of United, he would drive me absolutely insane. He still drives me absolutely insane. But with how many injuries we've had the last year or so, the fact that he's never missed a game with injury, I have a tremendous amount of respect for. Is he an ideal club captain with the way he acts? Probably not. I'm not sure there's anybody else short of Kobe, who's 18 years old, who I would want to give it to. So I think he's sort of captain by default. Look, he's an asshole, but he's our asshole. That's kind of how I feel about him. Are you on the same page?
First of all, that was a great answer, and you undercut most of Tyler's talking points.
No, Bruno's a gentleman of the game. Super super clean guy. He seems to be somebody who respects the game and the integrity of it. No, I think that he's a rat of like the highest order, and the fact that you compared him to Draymond is comical to me, because Draymond at least won multiple championships, and you're willing to put up with it because he helps your team win. Bruno, unfortunately, dives is the reason why you should have lost against Liverpool, but apparently we just decided to roll out our best 11 in the Europa League game on Thursday. But anyway, no, Bruno's a super good dude. Yeah, you should keep rolling with him.
Listen. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I feel like he's probably been the best signing they've had since. I mean, who else have they brought in who's actually had an impact? All the good players right now, Anthony? I feel like, are academy players. Anthony is a number one. I would say Anthony's probably
had a huge impact.
He's a huge, yeah. I mean, because he gave you boys some problems in the last game. I'll say that much. But no, I think it's like when it's been a painful period, and that's the thing is like when I tell people I'm a Manchester United fan, you get the look like, oh, they're the Yankees or the Cowboys. It's been terrible for the last 8 years. It's been a horrible experience because they are the butt of every joke. They are, no one can keep our names out of their mouth because we're Manchester United, but it's been so negative for so long. And I feel like Bruno's been kind of the face of this like grit, like, no, I wouldn't even say gritty, this sort of just strange period. And I kind of have a soft spot for him for that.
That ratty period. It's the rat era.
He's definitely a rat. I see the rat comparison for sure.
I love it, Dan. That was the perfect response. It's perfect that Tyler immediately went in on Bruno. It just makes a lot of sense, and I think we finally have a legitimate Manchester United fan who is going to speak for the Manchester United fans of the world. So
There's a lot of us.
This is perfect. This is perfect. All right, let's move on. Let's touch on some actual stuff that's going on in the world here of soccer. We'll start with headlines where FIFA and the official rules body IFAB have agreed to do further testing on a major change to the offside rule, excuse me. So I believe this is something that Arsene Wenger has been sort of championing. Basically, instead of having any part of your body being offsides, any part that can score a goal, now you can have your entire body ahead as long as you have one small part of your goal scoring part of your body that's still in line with the defender. So it's just changing the line of confrontation, if you will. We've talked about, I know that we've talked about this on the pod before, but let's get Dan's thoughts on this. What would you think about this kind of major overhaul of a fundamental
well,
rule?
I'm just thinking in my head of there will be more goals. I mean, we've seen so many that have been ruled off for, a shoulder or this, that, or the other. I'm for it. It feels like it's spiritually in line with the out of bounds rule where the whole ball has to be off. And I'm generally a fan of things that make scoring easier. And I think the offsides, having this sort of rhythm where it's like 2 goals. It's like every goal is actually 2 goals. It's the first goal, and then it's when they review it if it's still a goal. Like it's a terrible buzzkill. I can't think of any other sport that has as many stoppages and key moments as soccer does right now. So I would be for it. I think it's hard. It's already really, really difficult to determine, center of mass, if it's this shoulder or that shoulder. So I think it actually makes it a lot simpler where if any part, so what you're saying is like if a guy's running and his right foot is behind him and that's equal with the guy's hand, then he's onside.
Not hand, but like shoulder or knee.
Yeah.
Or
so I think that's cool. I think it'll lead to more goals, which I think is not a bad thing.
So I agree with you on the goals part. It's definitely an advantage for the offense. It's not going to fix anything in terms of the arguments we have about offsides. That's the thing that sticks with me.
We're just gonna be drawing different lines. It's
So I'm conflicted.
But why do they do it where it's like a part of you that could score a goal? Why not just make it like any part of the ball? I guess guys then would like hold their hand out. Yeah, that's not good. We don't want that happening. Okay, I answered my question. That's fine.
I like it though. I like it. You're thinking outside the box. It'll be interesting to see. I'm fine with them testing and just sort of seeing how it works and all that stuff. I'm hesitant, and I don't know if that's just because I'm like a curmudgeon and I'm scared of change. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Mitch, anything to add there?
Yeah, I feel like it may seem like a pretty small change, like we're just going to be drawing lines in different areas, but in fact, think to how many goals are scored by this much of a margin because the player was this far on or offside. How many goals are decided one way or another by that? We are widening that margin by a tremendous amount when it comes to like defenders and attackers. We are changing how defenders defend. An offside trap is almost like null and void at this point in the game because you really have to be perfect and everybody has to be in line. I think it will lead to more goals, absolutely, and I think it will alleviate that weird, awkward review period for a lot of goals. But I don't think it's going to make the game better as a whole. And I know it's not a very specific take on it, but I feel like it's just we're creating a different problem by moving those lines instead of fixing what VAR is right now.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm okay with them trialing it. I'm hesitant to support it.
Yeah.
All right. So this one was some quiet news that happened over the last couple of days. UEFA quietly loosened restrictions on multi-club ownership groups as far as their ability to have multiple clubs playing in European competitions. So, whereas before Manchester City, if they were playing in Champions League, a club like Girona, who is owned by that same Manchester City football group, they were barred from Europa and Europa Conference League. Now, Girona would be they'd be able to play in Europa or Conference League. They couldn't play in Champions League where Manchester City is, but they could play in one of the other competitions. So this, number one, strikes me as basically an inevitable change, given the way that these ownership groups are expanding. and also the competitions themselves, Champions League, Europa Conference League, they're expanding as well starting next year. So like this is just going to become bigger and bigger in terms of the problem. One thing I haven't seen anything written about or talked about, how is this going to affect like the Club World Cup when FIFA rolls that out starting, I think, in 2025? Like that is going to be kind of a big issue if you got teams like Girona and Manchester City involved. I don't know how that's going to, or Red Bulls, RB Salzburg and Red Bull Leipzig. Like I don't know how that's going to all work out. Mitch, you got anything to add there?
That just shows that the Club World Cup is an afterthought, even for FIFA, the governing body, that we don't care about it, and they haven't thought of that either. I don't know. This is a weird one with all of the new clubs being acquired by these like larger ownership groups. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's completely plausible within the next 5 to 10 years that Girona could win La Liga, or be in a Champions League qualifying place in La Liga. That City would obviously be top 4 in the Prem. They own a French club as well that could, theoretically be competing. Salzburg and Leipzig, like you mentioned. There's a lot of murky waters about this. And there could be instances where motivations are questioned when one team is playing another, but they're owned by the same club. Do I think that would like actually seep into the integrity of the footballing match? No, but it could. So it's weird that they're like loosening restrictions on that right now.
This hasn't happened with I feel like Salzburg and Leipzig would be the two that are like closest. Has this happened before where they had to choose one club to play and one to not?
They changed the ownership structure and they changed the name even, I believe, to somehow make it okay, because they did get around it somehow. The Red Bull group did get around that. But I know that it happened again this year, like 3 different clubs. I'm actually blanking on who all it was. I think Toulouse and AC Milan just being one of the examples. They had to, the ownership groups had to sell some of their shares to be below a 30% threshold. So this is just, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be more of a problem.
Are these ownership groups, do they view it as a pyramid where it's like we have the one club like clearly at the top and everything else is sort of a farm? Like what is their motivation for buying most of these clubs? Is it to make it easier on the club at the top, or are they trying to set up different, sort of presences in different cities? I guess
Tyler can speak.
I think it's a combination.
Yeah.
Tyler, go ahead.
I think it's a combination of having the mothership and having, whether it be, Leipzig be the main club or Manchester City or whatever it might be. But I also think that it's a way to consolidate young talent throughout multiple clubs, right? Because if there's only so many spots on the Manchester City roster, what you can do is send them to the Montevideo team, and a guy who you wanted to take a chance on, who you bought from some small second division Brazilian club, like all of a sudden you're able to have him underneath your umbrella. And like the scouting networks that they have are so extensive. And I'm kind of familiar with it just because the Chicago Fire, they purchased FC Lugano when I was working for them. And the whole way that was unfolding, and there were rumors that Joe Mansueto was potentially going to buy like a Premier League club or an English club for that matter. And I think that the biggest thing outside of like obviously trying to help the top club as much as possible is also just having a landing spot for players who you may or may not be sure of, and you're kind of ambiguous as to what their future is going to be, but you want them in your house. And the easiest way to do that is just to have multiple clubs, just because the scouting and the way that the footballing world is so entangled, it's so difficult to hold on to players that, because think about if Mohamed Salah had stayed within the City football group, which again wasn't going to happen given like how steep of a drop off there is from City to like Girona and then everybody else. But like if Mohamed Salah had stayed within Chelsea and they had 6 different clubs, he could have like hit his peak when he was at Chelsea, as opposed to like bouncing around to 2 different clubs and then eventually hitting at Liverpool. That's an extreme example, but that's the main. I think that's the main thing for them.
But it seems like like you said, it's inevitable that as these clubs become richer and richer, the ones at the top, that they're just gonna. I mean, we think in 10 or 15 years that every club is gonna have. Like every, the top big 6 clubs in the Premier League are all going to own. Are other clubs trying to expand this way, or is it still kind of contained to a few?
No, they're all expanding this way. City does, Manchester United now does through Ratcliffe, and who was it, Lyon? I mean, they're all moving in this direction. It's only a matter of time. And you know,
Interesting.
and they will probably see it as a their flagship Manchester City group, and then their AAA club, say Girona, and then your AA at Troyes, in France, and then your single A in NYCFC. Hopefully that'll move, change in a few years, but I think that's how it's going to go. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. Lastly, we don't even need to talk about this, but I just want to have everybody file it away in your brain box really quick. The Biden administration sided with Relevant Sports in their antitrust lawsuit against FIFA and US Soccer. And this was over Relevant's attempt to host an official La Liga match between Barcelona and Girona. They were trying to host it in Florida in 2018, and US Soccer stepped in and said, nope, we won't allow that. And now Relevant Sports, I believe that's owned by Wayne Huizenga, the guy from that owns a lot of the Miami sports teams. I think that they basically
it's Charlie Stilitano who's the
is it
executive chairman of
Stilitano?
that.
Okay, it was Stilitano.
Yeah, Stilitano's the executive chairman. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, they want. It's only a matter of time. If the Biden administration and Relevant Sports prevail in this lawsuit, it's only a matter of time until we actually do see official matches, not just La Liga, but Serie A, Premier League. It's kind of an extension of a trend that's already happening, right? They're playing these cup finals of Serie A in Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Saudi Arabia, which has brought up whole other issues. But it's just something to keep in mind. I don't know what the interest level is, probably higher than I even think for hosting and for Americans going to an official Serie A La Liga match. But I guess we'll just see. We'll see. That's something for the future.
Major League Baseball is, they had started their season in South Korea, so it goes the other way too.
100%. And I see the benefits to it. I see the positives, I see the negatives. I feel like we could have like a 20-minute discussion on this, and I figured we'd run out of time if we did that. So that's why I was holding.
I don't know what the opposition is. NFL plays games in London. NBA plays games in Paris. NFL plays games in Mexico as well. Like, it's good for growing the game. And even though if it's not, your American league, it is good for the growth of sport. So I really don't know what the opposition is, to be honest.
For American football, there's no competition, right? For Mexico, or wherever else you want to play. In the US, we have competition. So I think the thought process of US Soccer is you're kind of taking interest away from the sport, the game that we're trying to grow here. I think that would be their counter argument for that one.
Through game week 4, Valencia.
Right. If it's just one game,
come on.
But if it expands, which is inevitable, we'll see. Yeah. Okay, weekly what if time. So this is from Nuno Ali Sader on Instagram. So we were talking last week, Dan, to catch you up. Somebody, I don't know how this came up, but it was a graphic. Maybe that's where it started actually, and then Tommy, excuse me. Tommy had a prediction. He said that Columbus would finish sort of in line with, say, a Brentford in the Premier League, and we all kind of laughed at him. And Tommy has some good predictions sometimes. I don't think this is one of his better ones. And now he's not here to defend himself. But so Nuno tweaked the question, and he said, what if you put together an MLS Best 11 and they played a full season in the Premier League? Where do you see that team finishing, Tyler?
The same one that got beat by Arsenal 14-0.
Yes, but listen, that's an Arsenal team that has been practicing.
Okay, so are we how much training time are we giving this MLS Best 11?
I mean, if you give them a training camp at the minimum, full preseason. Relegated. Can they avoid relegation? That's
you don't think they're relegated? No problem. The best 11 is relegated, no problem.
Yeah.
Who would be who would be what's the front line? What's the you're obviously extremely locked in on MLS. Give me who would be the attackers on that team?
The front line is, and let's call it a 4-3-3, is going to be Denny Bouanga, Yorgos Yakumakis, and Cucho Hernandez.
And you think that's just
a Watford guy, a Greece international, and a Frenchman who is a streaky scorer, but the reigning Golden Boot winner, and who has some Liga experience as well. But it's just it's the depth aspect of it, and it's also just like building a team of like superstars from one league comparatively to building it with guys who are buying into a system and who a coach and a sporting director are like going after for specific reasons. Like, I hate to get too far into the intangibles of it all, but it's like, how many egos are you going to have on the field? You know,
Well,
there's
that's
not
what
enough
that's
ball to go.
you're answering the question in a very unfun way, which is like what would actually happen, right? Whereas you're considering team dynamics and egos, where we're just like we're looking at transfer market value, right? Like, are the guys as a collective whole good? Is every one of those players
They're
good
worth
enough?
more than Brentford. They're
Yeah.
worth more than Brentford, 100%. The transfer value of what that best 11 would look by far. If Thiago Amato is in the starting 11, I mean, like, he's worth almost more than the entire Brentford side outside of Ivan Toney. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It is very unfun of me, which is typically something that I'm not known for on this podcast. But maybe you're bringing it out of me. You're making me not fun, Dan. Get the fuck out of here. You're Manchester United.
We have one United fan on, and Tyler becomes Mr. Negative.
No, but like it's it's the United mentality. It doesn't matter how they fit into a system. Just get me some big names, sell some fucking jerseys, put some asses in the seats, and they'll figure it out on the field.
the third Glazer brother right here.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. I love it.
His dad is Todd. His dad is Todd Bowley. That's who his dad is.
Yeah, just buy everything. Just spend. It'll figure itself out eventually.
Oh, I love it. I love it. We can keep talking about this for a while, but we got big things to get into here. It's time to talk U.S. men's national team. So this is around the world. We will talk briefly, very briefly, about the Jamaica game, which was just a terrible display.
Let's not talk about it.
Not even talk about it.
It's pointless.
We don't have to. It's past
too
at
late.
this point. It's almost inconsequential.
It's too late.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just remind people what happened. We went down 1-0 in the first minute against Jamaica's arguably their B team. We played like absolute dog shit for the next 90 minutes, didn't do dick against their low block, and then we scored an own goal in the, in basically.
And they didn't have their best, they didn't have their 5 best players, maybe?
Basically.
How can you say that it's irrelevant? So we just judge the success or failure of the U.S. men's national team based on how they do against Mexico? That's just the barometer.
not even anymore. And we'll get into that. But like at this point, we are daddy so hard on Mexico that like I don't measure anything of Greg or of the Federation based on what we do against Mexico now, because we are just it's the power dynamic has shifted so hard in our favor. That is an expectation now that we win that game. Mexico is fucking trash. Like that team is in shambles.
Is it because of the talent pool, or is it because of what is the number one, the headline reason for why they've taken? Because you're right. In the last, 5 years almost that they've been terrible.
So I've seen a lot. I was doing a lot of reading of Twitter and social media and sort of some of the reactions in print media to this game, and obviously they will have been taken in to account the context of the last few years. There's a lot of Mexican fans who are basically coming around to the notion that the way that La Liga is run, or not La Liga, La Liga MX, and the way they refuse to essentially export talent to Europe, the way that we've done it for the last several decades now, we've just sort of said you need to go to Europe if you're going to be at that top level. In Mexico, it's not that way. There's this talk
is that a cultural thing?
Well, there's this talk. I don't know if it's true or whatever. I can't remember the name of it, but it's apparently like the owners of Liga MX teams, they are supposedly they blackball players, and I assume the agents who send them over to Europe. Those players are then blackballed from the league and coming back. So I don't know if that's true. It's just something that's talked a lot about online.
Well, Eric Winaldo was talking about this on Sirius today, and he brought up a really good point and something I didn't know because he played over there and he knows. But like basically 20 years ago when Mexico were at the peak of their powers and they were just, killing us. And I don't want to say it wasn't for a long stretch, but like there was a pocket in the 2000s where we just were not good enough, and in the 90s as well. And apparently they just didn't want to go anywhere else because they didn't need to. They would get like hundreds of thousands of dollars monthly, and wasn't taxable. And so there was no reason for them to go and play in Europe, because not only would they probably not play as much, but they wouldn't make as much money as they were making in Mexico. So they were like, I have my family here. I have all the money that I could need, and it's not taxable. Like, why
Because it
would
was
I
just
leave?
under the table payments, or what do you mean it
Yes.
wasn't taxable?
Yeah, they would get it. Yeah, they would get it in a duffel bag, and it would be labeled, you know, I don't know, I forget what
Sick.
the word is, but it's non-taxable.
Love
And
that.
so that would just
Miss those days.
so that just, I think that just became the culture thing. And to your point, Sam, like, there's also rumors, and I don't know if 100% true, that some of these clubs are owned by some not so kosher organizations.
I believe those rumors. I believe those rumors.
Our local LA resident believes the rumors. So if all of this is, so you wrap all this into basically like the growth of the game piece that everybody's crying about in the United States, and that like the owners in MLS and the federation, and that like we're not doing our best to grow the game by hamstringing the salary cap and not opening things up and having a 40p, whatever you want. There's a lack of growth in Mexico, but for an entirely different reason. And I think that they actually have been they've been stalling for the past 2 decades, way more than the United States has. And despite the fact that they blow our shit out of the water during CONCACAF Champions Cup in the first month of the season, the gap, if not the power shift from MLS to Liga MX, let alone US to Mexican Federation, it's so large now. And if you look at the roster and who's playing for who, I mean, the Mexican roster that was made up of, and that was their A team, or as close to it as possible. There's like 11 guys who are playing locally in Mexico. And what do the US have? Miles Robinson, and he starts and then gets benched for the final. That's it. And Drake Callender, who's 2 guys. Our entire World Cup roster in 2026 might not even consist of somebody who plays in MLS. So I don't know. I just ranted for a second.
I wonder if there's the Premier League, it feels is obviously is popular here and people follow. Is there that same culture of following of like overseas soccer in Mexico, or is it all is Liga MX so popular that it's all like that's like you said, it's almost like why would we leave when we've been growing up with this league being the #1 league and this being the gold standard? Like do they have that same interest in European soccer?
They definitely have an interest. Like every time I go down to Mexico, and I go down there relatively frequently, there's always games on, you know, European games, as well as, you know, Liga MX games, MLS games, even. There's clearly interest like that. I don't think it's a fan thing. I think it's more, you know, the ownership groups and whatever, you know, sort of mentality that they have there. I don't know, but I do agree with Tyler that like as bad as MLS, you know, as some things MLS has done poorly and has kind of hamstrung themselves, if not soccer in the US, there's far worse they could be doing. And I think Mexico is definitely showing the way on that, because they've fallen so far behind this game. I mean, one of the talking points I had written down was this emblematic of just like a true shift in the power dynamic? Or was this kind of like a 1 or 2 or 3 off? We've won all 3 of the Conference League finals. Mitch, I know you got something there.
I think it's been a shift in the power dynamic. This is just further evidence. We have held Mexico scoreless for 450 consecutive minutes.
That's an incredible stat.
That's not a rivalry anymore. That's us beating the bag out of them and having their number every single time we play against them, regardless of if it's at the Azteca or here stateside. We own Mexico. That has been true for probably 3 years now. I'm not going to say 5, I'll say 3 years now. And I think the trajectory is continuing that way. There's very little to be, from Mexican fans, this is not my words, but there's very little to be like hopeful about. There's no young players that really inspire a ton of confidence in the side. Your golden generation is far and gone now. Even your star players, your Chucky Lozanos of the world, don't look all that inspired when you're out there, and they don't look like they're actually going to go make a difference. Like, we're better than they are right now. And at this point, like it's truly not a rivalry anymore. So yes, I think that's just further evidence that there's a shift.
What happened to Chucky or Chucky? What, like, I feel like he didn't really, you know, he was at Napa. He didn't really quite he's still only 28, but he didn't quite blossom into the player they thought he was going to be. Did he?
No, but he's still there. He's still kicking it. He's still playing. But
he's still a valuable player. He's still good. But I don't think he is they're Pulisic. I don't think he can shoulder the amount of responsibility that Pulisic does. And I don't think he has the supporting cast around him to do so. But I think there was a lot of comparisons of those two early in their careers because they played the same position around the same age. But Pulisic has far and away shown that he's the better player. And Lozano has just been.
And the consensus with Pulisic is that the Milan move has been perfect.
It's been great.
Yeah.
It's been fantastic.
Yeah.
He's been balling out there. He's been getting game time. I mean, he's just
scoring.
It's everything that
Drawing
Chelsea
red cards.
wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
You think it's because he's like captain? Because I saw that like he drew like red cards in consecutive games. Obviously, Mexico's always hammering him. Do you think it's just something about him being this golden boy, this US guy that they all just want to hack his ankles?
I would if I was like a hardened Italian growing up in North Italy, like in the streets, and some fucking punk ass American came in and started dicing up my team and scoring goals at will, I'd foul the shit out of him. I'd take a red card too.
You're putting in a challenge, yeah. I think in CONCACAF especially, that the US has a target on our back, has for some time now, and he is the target. So you see how much he gets hacked during CONCACAF games. You see, and he doesn't get frustrated. I think he used to a hell of a lot more, but now he's a grizzled CONCACAF veteran, so he knows what to expect when he steps into those games. But you see the tackles that they put in on him. They do not hold up. It is early and often that they are putting in challenges on him, and props to him for riding those out, because that shit is brutal.
For sure. Now, so we're skipping over basically, Jamaica. We basically skipped over the Mexico game at this point. We did win, by the way, 2-0, which is obviously divine. Quickly though, let's talk about a couple of the talking points from the game. So first, with Berhalter's 11, he went with Gio over Musa. He went with Tyler Adams over Johnny, and then he went with Haji Wright over Balogun and Pepe. I know a lot of people had a lot of things to say about that. What did you think going in, Tyler? And then sort of what do you think now?
Wasn't surprised by any of the moves. Maybe thought that actually, you know what? Looking back on it, all of it makes sense, especially the Haji Wright one in the number 9 position, because he ended up just being in a wrestling match for however many minutes he stayed on the field with Cesar Montes. And I think that Montes knew that he needed to just fucking ride up the backside of Wright for 90 minutes. Otherwise, the flick-ons, the second balls are going to be there all day for the U.S. And once Pulisic and Gio pick up those second balls, like, and they're running at you, it's game over. So, like, Montes was just going to foul or try to win every header. And I think it actually ended up working out really well, where he was just preoccupied. I don't think Haji was able to get into the game at all and get into any sort of flow. Not that he's like a guy who needs the ball at his feet type thing. But then, you needed Gio on the field. I think that it's gotten to the point where not having Gio on the field for our big games is not an explainable roster move. It's just not. It started in the World Cup. Say what you will about the whole Reina Berhalter situation, but like, he's so clearly our best playmaker on any given day that like you just have to have him in the lineup. And then Tim Ream, you needed the experience there. And as well as he played, and as calm as he looked, as much as it's a win for Tim Ream, every time that he continues to start, I'm wondering how much this is hamstringing the evolution of the center back position and who's going to take that spot. Now, I was talking with Janusz Mihajlovic, who's a former U.S. men's national team player, on Sirius today, and he seems to think that he's just going to be the Pepe of the U.S. men's national team and start in World Cups until he's 40. And if that's the case, great. But like, it's getting to we're right at the threshold now. He will be pushing 40 by the time that the World Cup rolls around. So I'm just like,
and he's not starting for Fulham anymore, really, is he?
Well, he was hurt for a little bit, but
okay.
I think he will.
No, when he's fit, he's starting. Yeah.
So who's the other option? It would be Miles Robinson.
That's
the billion-dollar question right now.
Chris Richards, Mark McKenzie,
Carter Vickers.
Yeah, CCV.
Awesome trust.
Well, Richards was playing with him, right? I mean, Richards, I feel like, has that other spot. Does he not?
He was not outstanding on the night against Mexico, I don't think. And he's not known for his distribution either. And that's why Tim, I think, both from a positioning standpoint and on the ball, was needed next to Chris. I mean,
that's why we saw Gio drop so much. is neither of those center backs are known for being able to line break. So that's why you saw Gio drop.
But Tim can hit that. Tim can hit that diagonal ball. And
yes.
By the way, I completely disagreed with the halftime crew about like Gio dropping deep and like how that was like not allowing us to go forward and everything like that. Like, you gave the 21-year-old the keys to the car and you're getting him on the ball more than he's ever been on the ball before. And we ended up winning the game. Now, I know that it's not always the measure of it against the dog shit Mexico side. And that's been the case for several years now. And I will continue to say that as much as I say that Bruno Fernandes is a rat, because those are just, you can just put them on fucking repeat now. But this is all to say that like getting Gio on the ball more, even if he's dropping deeper to receive it, I don't think is a bad thing. If it starts to look awkward and he's impeding on other people's property, then I think fine, then you can make an adjustment. But like that was also by design. They were kind of using Tyler Adams as a decoy, and then he ends up dropping it in and finding it. And I didn't have an issue with it. Like if you want your best playmaker to be making the decisions in terms of when we're breaking lines and how we're breaking them. And I think he did a really good job of picking and choosing his moments.
You guys are obviously way more in on this than I am. Will Forrest care that he looks really good? Will that even register on their radar?
Probably not.
I was going to make a comment about that later. I doubt it. I mean, like we had Turner, who was the goalkeeper of the tournament. We had Reyna, who was the best player of the tournament, and I bet that doesn't even register for Nuno.
They're just like, oh, that's great,
that's cool.
Yeah, nice work, boys.
Maybe we'll get for Turner. Maybe we'll get a higher transfer fee for you or something. I'm being totally cynical and pessimistic, and I hope that's not the case, because I do think that both of them can add something for Forrest, but I'm very cynical about sort of what it'll mean for them. Now, last thing on this game. So we won 2-0. It easily could have been 4-0. Johnny could have scored. Pulisic could have scored one in like the second minute. Is this, and I think I already know Tyler's answer for this, is this a feather in Greg's cap? Should he at least get like a little bit of a reprieve from the haters? Or is this, as you said, Tyler, is this like not even what we should be judging ourselves on?
Really?
I feel like I just talked a lot, so I will let somebody else go first before I go on my rant.
Okay. I know you got a rant. I know you got a rant ready. Look, Mitch, you got a rant.
Well, all right.
Go ahead.
Mitch. All right. Here's the deal. I think that it's gotten to the point where we shouldn't be judged on this, and Greg shouldn't be judged on this. And Tyler Adams said it after the game. Everybody wants to go and be in the semifinals of a World Cup and get to a final of a World Cup tomorrow. But the truth of the matter is that this change in dynamic in terms of who had this team by the ball, meaning like Pulisic, Adams, McKennie, and everything like that, that didn't happen until 2020, 2021. So it's been 3 or 4 years of this group being in charge. We're a cycle and a half through Greg's tenure. It probably makes sense from a timeline aspect that if you're able to zoom out and say, okay, we've totally shifted the power dynamic in CONCACAF. We're head and shoulders above Mexico now. Now we can really go big game hunting. We needed to prove in order to get past the round of 16 in the World Cup, in order to get to a semifinal of Copa America, you need to first handle your business in the region. You can't make mountain out of molehills, right? I mean, it's a cliche for a reason. But like, with that said, this was a game against a bad Mexico team. It was a final, and you throw everything out the window. And it is a final, and it's against Mexico, and the pitch sucked, and we haven't even talked about that yet. It looked horrendous. So, with all that said, no, this is not a feather in his cap. He gets reprieve because he won the tournament and because he lives for another cycle until June when we have those friendlies, and then till Copa America. And to be completely honest at this point, getting out of the group stage should no longer be the bare minimum, and that expectation needs to start in this tournament so that we're not falling short of it. It's like aim small, miss small. If getting out of the group stage is our goal, then like we're going to shit our pants at some point and not get out of Copa America, or we're not going to get out of it when we're hosting the World Cup, depending on the draw, whatever it might be. But no, this is a win against a bad Mexico team. It just is. And forget the Jamaica game for a second. But like when you go back and look at it, we didn't play particularly stunning soccer throughout the course of those 210 minutes between extra time and everything like that. But you got Adams back out on the field, and Adams and Gio did all of their work that they did in that game on almost zero match fitness. Tyler Adams for sure was on zero match fitness. Gio Reyna has played what, like 60 minutes in the past 3 months.
So
it's only going to get better for them. But no, this is collect your hardware, move on, and let's be bigger than just beating Mexico and why we wave the flag, because that at this point is not, it just doesn't do it for me. It doesn't get me hard anymore.
Fair enough. I'd love to keep talking about this, but we got to move on. We got to go to where are we going to? Around the world. We got to finish up with MLS hitting quit a minute. If Minuteman himself is ready to hit us with it. You good?
Always primed and ready. All right. Let's get it popping. All right, we're first headed out to Foxborough, Massachusetts, Gillette Stadium. New England Revolution and Chicago play to a 1-1 draw. Caleb Porter avoids his 5th straight loss to start the season, but he only has 1 point from his first 5 games. Trouble right now in paradise, that is Foxborough. Let's head over to Red Bull Arena in Harrison, New Jersey. Just an absolute deluge for 90 minutes. Luis Suarez, Jordi Alba, and Busquets looked disinterested. Lewis Morgan was more than interested. Scored a hat-trick against his old team. 4-0 win for Red Bulls against a Messi-less Inter Miami. FC Cincinnati at home, 1-0 winners over NYCFC. What CONCACAF Champions Cup Blues? They've now taken a 6 out of possible 6 points after they got bounced by Monterrey a couple of weeks ago. NYCFC in serious trouble as they've gotten off to a really rocky start. Speaking of rocky, let's go over to the Rocky Mountain Cup, Vancouver and RSL. Final score, RSL 2, Vancouver 1. That game was in Vancouver. Big result for Pablo Mastroeni and company. Orlando City 2-0 at home against Austin. Austin in a bad way. Former U.S. men's national team striker Josh Wolf has not gotten it right at the start of the season. Them, New England, and NYCFC, I am really worried about right now. Charlotte over a Columbus side that was missing a couple of pieces. Big win for Ashley Westwood and company at home. Dean Smith gets the 3 points against the reigning champs. 2-0 is the final score. Columbus also endured a red card. Toronto FC at home against Atlanta, also missing a number of pieces. Atlanta, but Toronto get the job done yet again. Another clean sheet for Sean Johnson and company. Lorenzo Insigne are cooking at the moment at the start of the new campaign, and John Herben's got everybody bought in. St. Louis and DC, a battle of who presses more, and it ended up being a 4-goal thriller from City Park. That was the game that I had. St. Louis and DC played to a 2-2 draw. Good stuff from both sides, and just a game of just absolute madness and chaos. Sporting Kansas City took a 2-0 lead at home against the LA Galaxy, and Dan's boys rallied back. They scored like 3 goals in a matter of 10 minutes, and they end up winning the game 3-2 in Peter Vermees's house. Big win for Greg Vanney, as he's done an excellent job with that new group that are headed by Gabriel Peck and Joseph Paintsil. Colorado Rapids at home against the Houston Dynamo. Benny Ball prevails 1-0 in favor of the Dynamo. LAFC blow the absolute doors off of Nashville. 5-0 is the final score. LAFC scored for the first time in 3 games. Nashville endured a red card, and it was just all Steve Cherundolo's group. Black and gold get it done 5-0. Portland at home. Don't ever doubt Jim Curtin. It's like betting against Tom Izzo in March Madness. Just don't do it. 3-1 is the final score in favor of the Philadelphia Union. And then San Jose beat the Seattle Sounders at home by a score of 3-2. Seattle right now sitting towards the bottom of the Western Conference barrel, and that would do it for week number 5, match day number 6 in MLS.
Well done. Shout out to Charlotte. I was at the Charlotte Columbus game. The reffing, by the way, that was not good. The red card and everything, all the penalties, the goal, it was called back. There was a lot of things to talk negatively about, but the game day experience at the Charlotte FC was awesome. Shout out to Woody and my guys over there. Like, it was just a really cool experience. I can't wait to get back. And the jersey, by the way, is as pretty as I said when I just saw it online.
Charlotte is probably my, I go to a lot of cities for golf tournaments, and Charlotte is probably my favorite that we go to every year. I love Charlotte. Charlotte's awesome. Charlotte's really cool.
Great. The only thing I had to say negative about other than the reffing, was the weather. The weather ended up being kind of cold, kind of rainy, which I think I just got unlucky in that respect. But it was still a ton of fun. Cool city, a lot of cool fun places, and just people were out everywhere. It was good, and the game day experience, like right around the game, was awesome.
I got a couple questions because I have not been following the Galaxy for that long. It's really since I moved back to LA. So. Who is it? Puig, Ricky Puig.
Ricky Puig.
So he decided he was going to make way more money, and he was just going to kind of be a cog in the Barcelona system, and decided to make, like, what when he came to LA, what was his sort of like justification and rationale for doing so? Because he looks like the best player on the field by a decent margin when he's up for it, like he was the second half.
I mean, number one, it's LA, right? I mean, I don't need to tell you that. You live there. Why would you, if you're a European kid, which he is, going to play in the States is probably something that you're usually thinking about towards the end of your career. Olivier Giroud apparently is on the door of joining LAFC, but like, I think that if you have that opportunity to go be the man in a league and in a team, and I think that that's something Ricky Puig ultimately wants for his career, I think it's a really good spot to go and do it, especially now. But yeah, I think making a lot of money, being the guy, and doing something different. I think that was also kind of something that he's mentioned before, and it struck, I think, a lot of us as much as it does to the casual fan that like somebody of that caliber would join MLS at that age. But like, it's becoming more and more mainstream for guys to come and do it. But,
and you think he'll go?
he's-
Do you think he'll go back? Is that an arc that some guy like you come for a couple of years? I know like Almiron went when he left to go back or to go to Europe when he was like 26 or 27. Puig is 24. You think he'll stay for another 5-7 years, or you think that he'll go back after kind of getting the bag and getting these couple of years like in the sun?
I imagine he'll probably go back.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see somebody with his talent and probably getting told by his people that at some point we're going to have to wrap this up and go to Europe and really try your hand and try to, maximize your career and challenge yourself at the highest level. Like if the LA Galaxy win MLS Cup or something like that this year, and which I think that they're going to get to MLS Cup, then he might say, I've done all I can do here. We've turned the ship around. I left this place better than I found it. And like, let's go back to Europe and try our hand again.
So I use FOTMob. I don't know if you guys know that app is like my GOAT app. They have him at 3.5 million. That feels criminally low.
That's his transfer value?
That's what it says on the app. I couldn't believe that. I was like, is this guy not played at all? And then I watch him play and he's the best.
But did they buy him for 3.5 million? Maybe that was just based on like,
was that the
I'm gonna
fee?
look it up.
I think that's his. I think that was the fee that he was bought at, not his current market valuation. If you go to Transfer Market, just a massive database of legit everybody that's ever kicked a football, they will tell you what his current like fair market value
They have
is.
Puig at 1.5 million right now on market value, which that's just incorrect. That can't be right.
It's just incorrect.
Objectively
false.
false.
By the way, Dan going. By the way, have you guys heard of this app called FOTMob?
Okay,
that's like,
I'm sorry.
Like,
you guys.
That's like me going. Hey Dan, have you heard of this app called The Grin? It's great. It's great.
Okay, 12 million is according to Transfer Market. So I will stop using FOTMob and I'll not just forget I said that. Sorry guys. I mean, this is what people hate about. This is what people hate about soccer fans, right? It's like I'm coming in and I'm excited and they're like, you fucking loser. You think you know shit?
That's true. Listen, soccer is the worst about gatekeeping. We are the absolute worst sport about that. First of all, you should keep using FOTMob, just not for the transfer values. FOTMob is awesome for scores and all this other stuff. But Transfer Market is usually better for
if nothing else, I got that from this conversation, so that's helpful.
There we go.
Dan, it's all love, dude. I was just giving you shit.
I know. I
fired it off. I
appreciate it.
All right, let's go to Premier League. We're going to keep it really short this week. We're just going to talk about the big bad game on Sunday where City hosts Arsenal. This is a preview of the first of several games coming down the stretch that could essentially decide who lifts the Premier League trophy in this three-way battle. Mitch, I think we got to go to you first. I mean, what's sort of your thought process on this?
I'm confident. I've been itching for some Premier League footy. I really have. I haven't really clocked how long it's been since I've watched the Arsenal play. I'm looking forward to us playing this weekend, despite the fixture. I think this will be a welcome reprieve from the Premier League grind. I think everybody's going to come back with some refreshed mindsets, including all of the Arsenal players that have omitted their international duty, your Ben White, Saka, whether it be through quote unquote injury or just
getting tan.
Getting tan and playing Uno on the beach. Like I think that's a move that you're going to see more often from the highest level players, your Cities and your Arsenals of the world, when we come down to these title races and we're down to the business end of the season. And I really, really love to see how seriously our players are taking it.
All right. Appreciate it, Mitch. I know you got some trophies to go win. So best.
I got to bounce, guys. I'm not going to say it right now because then I'm going to jinx it. I'll tell you guys later next week. Bye.
He's definitely got Arsenal win in this game. All right, Tyler, what are your thoughts here as the sort of not neutral but unbiased third party?
I'm as neutral as it gets in this game.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
a
you
draw-
got
a
skin
You
in the
want to
game.
draw. You want to draw.
You
Yeah.
guys
I want to
Yeah,
draw, which
yeah,
means I'm a
yeah,
neutral. That means I'm a neutral. Is it
Okay,
not?
neutral. Yeah. And you're neutral, but you're not unbiased. I never had that wrong. What do you think here?
Fair. Where's the game?
City.
City.
It's at the City ground.
3-1 City.
Oof.
Arrested
I think
Erling and KDB.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a rude awakening for everybody who's like, oh my God, Arsenal's been blowing everybody out. And yeah, I was there for the Liverpool game, and I was shit-faced by myself with none of my friends watching my team get absolutely pummeled and not being able to react to any of it. And it sucked, and I'm never doing it ever again. But with that in mind, yeah, I think this is City. I think that this is, what is it, March 20? Yeah, after the March international break, this is where they like flip it on and they go to win like 10 in a row.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dan, who do you think is going to win this? Not just this game. Who do you think is going to win the title?
Yeah, I think it's City. I think they're the evil empire that feel like they almost toy with their food for the first 6 months of the season. Yeah, they're just when you play them, it's different than playing anybody else, I think. And I'm very, very excited to watch. I'm very much looking forward to it because you're right. I'm itching for it. The international break just doesn't, especially when the US plays the same fucking 5 teams every single time that they're playing. And that's something we didn't, maybe if I'm getting invited back, I'll ask you guys more questions about how many fucking games they play against CONCACAF opponents. It's like, I couldn't believe they still do the Gold Cup.
That's part of the thing about Nations League. It was the good and the bad. Like, sort of, Nations League is making friendlies count, but it means we're playing against, the Trinidad Tobagos of the world, like over and over and over. So yeah, it's
no, I watched the England-Brazil game. I enjoyed that. That was kind of the only game I watched the international, but yeah, I'm excited. You get the familiar commentators back. You know that the international breaks are in the rearview mirror. You're right. This is like it's like if in baseball they had a week break in the end of August, and you're like, all right, you're coming back, and this is the stretch run. So I'm very much looking forward to it. United looks like 5th will probably get into the Champions League this year. So there's a lot to play for. We've got some momentum after just ruining Liverpool's dream farewell season for Klopp. So I'm very much looking forward to United Brentford.
Something where you said you're perfect with everything that you said. Bitching and moaning about the U.S. playing against the CONCACAF teams too much, spot on. Talking about the schedule and everything, great. Talking about City being the even empire, perfect. And then you go and throw that bullshit. Like, I give a shit about League Cup. Like, I care. Okay, because once upon a time,
you touched a nerve, Dan.
Stop. Once upon a time, 2 years ago, when we were in the running for the quadruple, we ended up with just the FA Cup and the League Cup, and I felt empty inside. It felt terrible because we missed out on the Premier League and the Champions League, the only 2 trophies I wanted. So I would be bounced from Europa League, League Cup, and FA Cup tomorrow so that we can win the Premier League in Klopp's final season. I don't care about League Cup. Come on, man.
Doesn't bother you at all. Not mad at all. Okay.
No, losing to United in extra time after being up in extra time. No, it doesn't bother. No.
Well, that was a good overlay there, Dan. Sort of like we're back. Like, this international break is in the past. Now we're like focused on the title race. And yes, it just feels like this is the perfect game for City to come back and remind everybody, yeah, we haven't looked, like the City of some years, but like, by the way, we're still just too fucking good and too fucking deep for all of you. So if I had a prediction, that's probably where it would go as well. So now before we head to stoppage time, a quick message from a promotional message here. So we normally would do power rankings, which obviously Tyler loves dearly. We're not going to do that this week. Typically what we do is we debate the top 4, bottom 3 if they played on a neutral field right now. What would happen? Instead of that, I'm going to give you this quick promotional message. It's about a new app that one of our longtime listeners, in fact, is putting out. It's going out now, or it's putting the finishing touches on. It's called Fanfolio Sports Market. And it essentially mimics the stock market where you can buy and sell shares in clubs that you think will finish higher or lower in the table relative to where they are right now. So obviously there are some parallels there with the power rankings segment, which we were just talking about. So this Fanfolio platform is currently in beta testing mode, and we, the members of SamFam, can number one be early adopters, and number two will be the guinea pigs and get a feel for how this is working, whether it's working well. So no actual money is exchanged at this point. That'll come later. But everybody, you should go check it out. Fanfolio Sports Market. The app is Fanfolio Sports Market, available wherever your apps are at the app stores. Website fanfolio.market. For a special promotion for new users, we're offering a fantastic promotion. Sign up with access code SAM to receive $50 of in-game value. The bonus not only enhances your starting experience, but also includes an option for eligible users to withdraw a portion of it at the end of the season. It's great to kickstart your Fanfolio journey. So basically, this is it's just a stock market. You can buy and sell shares. Money is not being exchanged at this point. It will be. I think the plan is for that will happen soon. And just go check it out. Winners will get paid out a portion of whatever their winnings at the end of the season. So it's just something to go check out. So shout out Fanfolio Sports Market. Now, quickly, we're going to put a bow on this episode. Stoppage time with so as I've said before, we are cooking with thermonuclear gas on the Overtrain. We went 5 for 5 last week. 5 for 5. I won't go through them, but basically I got 5 more for you. Wednesday, we're going Lyon Benfica. Wednesday, this is Women's Champions League, second league. Thursday, Blooming Aurora in Bolivia. Friday, Swindon versus Notts County in League 2. Saturday, Kaiserslautern versus Dusseldorf in the Bundesliga 2. And then Sunday, we'll finish it up with MacArthur versus Western Sydney Wanderers in the A-League. Obviously, I've been digging deep for these because we're in the middle of...
where do you, are these things that you actually know?
Well, no. Yeah. I have a gut feel. I got a gut feel.
This is fun. This is fun for me watching Dan react to you betting on fucking A-League games. It's like watching a show that you've seen before, but watching it with somebody new and like watching their reaction. I'm getting a kick out of it. This is great.
Listen, if you went 5 for 5 last week, then obviously
right.
Statistically.
Here's the thing. Last week we bet on.
You were on a cold streak. You were on a cold streak before that though. Don't act like you were.
Listen, I only got 2 for 5 the week before, and that was one of the worst weeks I've had. So like, if that's as bad as it gets, it's not so bad. It's not so bad, Tyler Terrence, right. God damn it. And this is last week I did Japanese second league in Japan, not the first league, the second league. We went to the second league in Ireland, A-League, Iran versus Turkmenistan in Asian qualifiers. I mean, listen, you can talk as much shit as you want, but 5 for 5.
It's the global game. It's the global game.
The math, do the math. The numbers speak for themselves. Now, do you have?
By the way, I don't think I've ever asked you this. Not that I can or want to, but what are you using to bet on these games?
So I typically use Bet Rivers, which is a very specific to Illinois because they often have. You can watch games in the app. It's embedded. And they also have odds for a lot of games that other ones like ESPN Bet and DraftKings don't necessarily have. So I typically do Bet Rivers, but no free ads. Now, quickly, do you have a best bet, Tyler?
I do have a best bet. Inter Miami to win at home, over in that game as well, paired with. MLS schedule paired with a draw between Charlotte and Cincinnati.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I like it. Dan, you
my best bet of the week would be Scotty Scheffler to win the Texas Children's Open. He's only 3-1. It's the shortest odds in a PGA Tour event in a full year, but he's the best player by a mile. And don't be upset with yourself when you don't have Scotty on Sunday. So we're gonna put a little golf in there. I waited for a full hour.
Do you really think he's gonna win it again?
Yeah, I do. I think he's gonna win the Masters by 5 shots. He is on another planet. He's on another planet right now. And if the putter stays at least lukewarm, he is tee to green for the last 18 months. He's been as good as Tiger in 06, as good as Tiger in 07. So I'm not saying that he has the staying power that Tiger did, but right now, from an X's and O's perspective, it is as good as Tiger was during those years.
Yes, standpoint, I agree. Yes. It doesn't look like he's going to make a mistake ever. But
the 64 he shot at Sawgrass was the most ordinary 64 at TPC Sawgrass. I remember when Cameron Smith shot 64 at TPC Sawgrass in 2022. It was like, holy shit, I can't believe this guy shot 64. He made every putt. Scotty was like just plodding around.
Chilling.
I love it.
Vibing out.
Listen, I speak for Ivan Toney.
I did throw 20 on
don't need to be
Wyndham Clark. I threw on 20 on Wyndham Clark, being like, well, there's no way that Scotty's going to win back-to-back tournaments. Like, that just doesn't happen anymore. And sure enough, but like now, there's no way he wins 3 in a row. I'm sorry.
I just got a week off. He's in Texas. I just don't think that I don't think he celebrates. I don't think that winning a tournament like takes anything out of him, because he goes home and his wife like calls him a loser if he doesn't want to, clean the dishes. I think he's got this incredible, like, nothing matters. He's already 11th all time in career earnings. He's the richest guy ever. I just think like at this point, he's a machine. He's a golfing machine.
That's how we should be. We should be a CONCACAF machine, winning the Children's Open, winning the players for Scotty Scheffler is the same thing as the US beating Mexico. It shouldn't matter. Just go on with your business. Like, beating up on children who are half your size and weigh half as much as you is not fun. That's not an accomplishment. And that's what we're doing with Mexico consistently.
Way to bring it around back to soccer.
Bring it full circle, baby.
I love that. And I love that Dan brought the golf little tidbit for us there, because listen, I speak for Ivan Toney when I say we don't care about what sport. We just want winners. We just want winners.
Is it not the Ivan Toney Shohei Ohtani best bets?
We
now?
may have to rebrand. Yes, we may have to look into that.
He just gave a big statement while we were doing this podcast.
What did he say?
I don't know. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. I've been locked in on the podcast, as you can imagine.
Also, what's been going on is since that we started the podcast, the US U23s were trailing France 2-0 and scored 2 late goals through Griffin Yao and Kate Cowell. I think we ended up drawing the game against France in the U20, who we have in the group stage in the Olympics, which is a nice little boost for the confidence. Really is.
Nice.
I know.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. We're bringing this around in a very positive way. I like all of this. Now let's finish it. Go is time. Dan, you want to, as the resident, or Tyler, do you want to throw it in there, or are you out?
Referees. That's all I got to say. Goodbye.
Fair point.
I'm not sure I am aware of what I am being asked to do, but I will do it for you. I'll tell you that much.
So, GOATest of all week. Okay, so GOATest of all week is a play on the GOAT can be good, GOAT can be bad.
Yeah,
it's basically a way for you to either give flowers or heap shame on any player, non-player, person, group, anybody, whoever deserves special, recognition, good or bad, for the past week.
Kobe Mainu, just that one turn is all I needed to see. No, I just think they put him in there. He immediately starts combining with Rice. There's no stage that he's playing against Brazil at Wembley, and he just doesn't have a pulse. And it feels so good to have a player like that in your team that is just not for sale, and he's going to be in the middle of the park for the next 10 years. And I love. There's just not many things I enjoy right now more than watching him. It's more than just the way he plays. It's his face that it never. He doesn't get excited. He doesn't get upset. He is. I'll be buying the kit pretty soon.
Is he the Scotty Scheffler of soccer?
I don't know. I found out that his brother was on Love Island in one of the old seasons this week, which really sent me for a loop. That was like worlds colliding. But he's I don't. It's going to be fun to watch him develop. I'll put it to him and Garnacho and Hoyland. It's nice to finally have some energy. Yeah.
I mean, you have some pieces, right?
Oh,
you have some pieces.
Everyone else can go, but those 3 can stay.
All right, that is a good shout. My goal is, so I'm going to give the honorable mention to the 2 players we already mentioned, Gio Reyna and Matt Turner, who were the player of the tournament and best non-athlete of the tournament for Turner for the CONCACAF Nations League. I have a bad feeling that Nuno does not give a goddamn, rat's ass about that. And they are not going to, benefit from this when they go back to Nottingham Forest. But I really hope, we need these guys to get to playing time. They clearly can play. Like, I cannot believe that Nuno can't find a place for, these guys. Gio, I mean, like, the guy, he's a creative player. They need some goals. Like, I just cannot believe he can't find a place for him. Nuno, do your goddamn job. Get them in the game. My actual goes to Wilfried Nathan Douala. And so people who have been listening to the podcast for a couple of weeks now, you'll remember that the is it Ghana? I think it was the Ghanaian FA came out and suspended 60 plus players. Oh no, Cameroonian. Cameroon's FA came out and suspended 60 plus players for being allegedly for age fraud. And this guy, Wilfried Nathan Douala, was kind of the featured player of that, because he was, you know, he said he was 17. Everybody sort of got on him online, said he's got the hairline of a 35-year-old and all this sort of stuff. It turns out he's been exonerated. He is 17. So he went through.
That's what they
ringer.
want you to think. That's what they want you to think.
Listen, I'm just going on the facts I've been told here. Listen, and I'm not gonna make any hairline jokes. Obviously, I'm not in a place to be doing that. But he is officially, anyway, he's exonerated. So he's gonna get the Go Award. You know, we made some jokes at his expense. He looks like a really fun dude. He was out there sort of dancing and bringing the vibes. So he has an invitation to Sneaky Fox FC for the TST this summer. And congratulations, I guess, on being exonerated, and sorry for, you know, the jokes that the internet had for you. And that's all we got. Dan, first of all, you're great. You have an open invitation if you ever want to be subjected.
I'm around,
to this
man.
again.
Listen, this is my outlet to talk about soccer and talk about footy. So I'm here for it.
I love it. And the fact you're a Manchester United fan, there's going to be a lot of United fans who are very happy. The last one we had was Dax McCarty. An official.
We've seen it all. Come on, boys. We're here.
See,
we're
we
present and
finally
accounted
had
for.
one. Oh, it just feels great. And honestly, listen, you're a soccer guy.
I'm
don't know if
I'm getting there. I have this. I have the base. It's been a re-entry the last couple of years. I'm MLS, my stuff. I just bought the ticket, so I'm gonna be. And now that I have to talk to like real soccer guys, you know, the takes have to improve. They just have to.
You listen. You're already you can pass. You can already make it pass as a grade A official soccer guy. It was great having you. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully you will come back on and give us some more United takes, because obviously the listeners, at least some of them, are dying for more United fan perspective. So thank you, and everybody else, including Mitch and Tyler, who came on. Thank you for listening. We will be back next week, bigger, better, faster, stronger. Can't wait to talk to you guys then. Cheers.